investigating the existing condition of the pavement here.
Do you have an estimate, or have you built an estimate of the remaining life left in the existing pavement as it sits right now?
It varies from one location to another. Certain locations, it will probably last longer than other locations. It's really, it depends on the spot that you are talking about. There are places that needs repair right now. There are other places probably it will last much longer time. But we know that it is, in certain places it's already failing.
You're an engineer?
Yes.
Okay. You work for a company, a construction company?
I work for S&D Engineering and Construction. We do both.
Yeah, we have both design and build.
How can you be objective in what you're saying to us when you're a construction company? Obviously, you're selling your product.
We are not doing the pavement.
They are licensed engineers. We had our licensed engineer that we hired, Yuko, wrote a report, got paid $25,000, and nobody followed their specifications.
Is rain or water can really enhance the damages of the cracks that we already have?
Yes, standing water will accelerate the deterioration of pavement.
And we do have pictures, we took about a year ago where this severely, the ponding issue was major at certain locations. We have submitted pictures to Mr. Ed, and those locations were pretty bad. Either the drainage was not draining properly, or the slope was not proper, and all the water was being retained at one location, the parking lot, and other locations. And it was
And in answer to that, gentleman, what was your name?
Me?
Yes.
Marcel Duchesne, Chatham H.
Okay. If you look at the report that was rendered to Yuko by M&M on the core samples, Yuko did not pay for it. M&M contract paid for it. And the amount of core sampling was minuscule, and every single core was sampled in the middle of the road. Now, if you talk about a conflict of interest, that's a conflict of interest. The contractor that did the job hired the core sampling engineering company. He paid it. And when he did it, and when they did the second engineering report by Simmons and White, it was 6 pages and a section this big. Any other questions? Yes, Neil.
I heard some talk about perhaps putting some kind of a coating on top of the existing pavement, and I would like the engineer's opinion on whether such a process is effective, or cost-effective, or practically effective.
I will not recommend a coat on it.
Beg your pardon?
I don't recommend a coat on top of an existing pavement to repair it.
Thank you.
It's not an option. I don't think it's an option.
Thank you.
I also wanted to answer your question. Although we are a design build firm, but asphalt pavement is a specialized field, and we do not do asphalt. In this project, we are only hired as an expert witness and as the engineers to do the design. If there is any, if they will allow us to do that, there will be another. The bids will go out to different multiple contractors, and that board will decide who they want to choose to do the work, and then the work will proceed and we will monitor the work.
I think generally we seem to agree that the asphalt job was not done properly. It wasn't done properly in the first place. Obviously, it has to be done within 10 years, and yes, it's going to cost $15 million.
Why would, if it was your money and you had a job done and it finished a year ago or a year and a half ago, would you be so willing to pay for it again?
No.
Okay, that's your answer. You are calling to pay for something again and again and again.
But how do we recover the money that we spent on
That's why we started the lawsuit.
One question.
Could you say?
Yeah, my name is Ron Qualls. I'm president of Norwich L. The question I have is, when M&M did the contract and put the roads in, they had to pull a permit.
No.
Is no permit allowed?
No. You asked they had to pull a permit. The answer is no.
Why?
They didn't pull any permits until some guy, who you may know, went over to the building department and said, hey, we're having all this work done. Don't we need a permit? And they said, sure you do. So some guy who you may know took them over to the Century Village, and every piece that they did had to get permitted. And then they didn't pass. And then you got 10,000 spots done over. If you're wondering who that guy is, you're looking at him. Me and Myron went there dozens of times. There were no permits for the drainage. There was no permits for anything. And the result was, you see all these black spots all over the place. We had 10,000 parking spots. They had to reduce 6,000 parking spots. Unfortunately, the building department, because this is private property, that's all they could do. They turned down their permit because they didn't do the work according to the diagrams and specifications that they issued.
My name is John Gluzak, Salisbury H. You know, we're talking about this paving. Delegates got to know there's a lot of problems besides the paving. There's other things. I sent in a bio to be vice president, and it got rejected, but they don't like what I said.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, very much. I think the contractor who was kind, just excuse me, the contractor who was kind enough to appear here and did a cursory review of our roads is willing to come up and take some questions. They are one of the potential contractors to redo the roads. Okay, we will take that up at another.
Have they investigated the roads?
They have begun to investigate the roads.
Then we should hear from them.
Good morning. Yes, I'm Doug with Driveway Maintenance, and we were asked to come out to give our opinion on the road. We did have some time this morning to look around and did find that there were some deficiencies.
When you're going to do, if you're going to do the job, it's not just again paving. First of all, you have to destroy everything that happened. So it's going to be much more than 5 million if that was the cost. You have also to
I can't even comment on the cost, but there will be milling involved, what you would call demolition, removal of asphalt prior to what you do.
Esther.
Sir?
In my association, Stratford A, we have a problem of ponding of the water on the sidewalk, which doesn't drain properly, and the ponding of the water, which is in the middle of my parkway, goes from the catch basin by the road to the catch basin by the lake. The water doesn't flow. Prior to any of these roadways done, the people that did the roadway in my association were well informed. We had proper drainage in the middle, going from the catch basin by the road all the way down, about at least 3 feet in width. The water used to go. No water was ever on our sidewalk that bonded. These last 2 constructions that we have destroyed my parking lot, destroyed everything on my sidewalk. So if it has to be repaired, we have to mill down quite a bit in my association and redo my whole parking area, which was not done properly. We only went down 1/4 of an inch, whatever it is, for the milling throughout the whole village. And that can't be done because some sections had to have more milling than others.
There was no milling.
I have a question.
Yeah, all the particular areas would have to be addressed individually, so we'll discuss that in the future.
Take a look at that.
I have a question. Okay, now my question to you is, do you get a performance bond? I happen to know about all those things. I worked in it in my school as my job there. It is gotten by the vendor, by the contractor. It is not gotten by us. Have you been required in the past to get a performance bond?
Yes, we have and we can. And I think you were right to say that you
That's
deserve.
right. And you know that in the end, Dave Israel came to me personally and said, "You're right, Flora, I apologize."
Performance bonds, the ability of them to obtain a performance bond is determined by their credit as an organization. I don't know how long M&M had been in business at the time, and it may have been a reason why they didn't want to get a performance bond.
They said it cost $40,000 and they refused to get it.
It's probably the inability to get it, right, as opposed to
And they
not
shouldn't
being.
have gotten the contract.
And you know what? And I'm telling everybody here, all of this was okay with the delegates. Instead of someone else getting up and saying, maybe this lady is right, they shouted me down, they called me names, and I had to go sit down.
I 100% agree with that. I'm the engineer. In a project like this, we always require performance bond from the contractor, and that can prove the ability of the contractor that they have been in business a while and they are capable of offering the performance bond. And it is usually 2.5% to 3% of the total cost of the project. So if they had the performance bond, as she has mentioned, we wouldn't have a problem, right?
That's right. And you know what? I
The
just want to say
performance
one
bond is paid by the
contract.
yes.
I want to say one more thing. All of you sitting here, and this message of love is terrific. I wrote to Ed Grossman the other day on the email, and I thanked him. We have to be informed. We have to be people who will have the guts to get up and say what we're supposed to say. And you know what? The last delegates meeting, I couldn't believe my eyes. Dave Israel came to me as we were walking out, and he says to me, I'm stunned, he tells me, and I said, it's your own fault. Now swallow it. Okay, but you know what? When you go to these meetings, ladies and gentlemen, you have to know what's going on. You must.
Right. There are 10 executive board positions open in this next election. Please volunteer for it.
You have questions for these gentlemen?
Is there any other questions for these gentlemen? Stand up, be counted, and give your name.
Howard Children, Stratford I. A job this big, do you, in your opinion, does it require more than one-page contract?
Yeah. More than one what?
A job this big, in your opinion, do you feel it deserves more than a one-page contract? You know, you're all talking over here, but that's what the delegates voted for.
I would be very surprised if it was a one-page contract. Yeah, there should be a lot more detail in what's going to be done, what's going to be provided, and what your money is paying.
Well, that's what they voted for.
Looking over the contract?
We would have our own attorney look at the contracts that we discuss and negotiate prior to doing any work, but yeah. I would recommend.
Stupid, right?
No, I would recommend for the security of both parties that you have attorneys for both sides.
$5 million a one-page contract, no bonds?
And no attorneys.
I think there were some mistakes made.
Could you stand up and give your name?
Bradford James. The longevity of the roadway is based upon the amount of asphalt laid down and the contraction of that asphalt. Is that correct?
Not the amount, but maybe the temperature, the compaction rate, there's several things.
If you put 3 inches of asphalt down and you compact it down to 1 inch, you put the pressure with the heat. From what I understand, they only put down 1.5 inches and they compact it down to 3/4 of an inch, which is nothing. A heavy truck will bring it right up.
I can't comment on the specifications.
The cracks in the walkways are terrible. And you know what? There's a section, I don't know what you call it. It's in Berkshire. There's a huge hole in the ground, and I walk with my walker. There's a huge hole in the ground as you're walking down that long thing. So you're looking at walkways also, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you all coming, and I don't want to cut it off. We could go on ad infinitum. My suggestion is, first, vote the budget down. A few people to do it. Second, when we get through with this budget, one way or another, we will have another meeting regarding what happens with the budget. If it is turned down, if it isn't turned down, God willing, it will be turned down, and then we will have a roadway. A full meeting on the roadway. So I would appreciate you all having a healthy and happy New Year.
Thank you.